We're here in Midland, this huge racing community up in North Yorkshire, the home of Johnston Racing and Charlie Johnston, the trainer, whose motto, always trying. They are trying to compete on the big stage with the big guns, the Hulmes, the Godolphins, for the world's oldest classic. They have got Lazy Griff, owned by the Midland Park Syndicate, going for glory in the Betfred St Leger.
He's been good. We're here 10 days away, so yeah, been counting down the days for quite some time now. He's got one more strenuous piece of work to get through this weekend, but we're very happy with where we need to be 10 days away.
Has he surprised you this season? I mean, it's been an incredible run from Chester all the way through to the Curragh.
Yes and no. We certainly came into this season with confidence that we had a horse that we thought could be competing in the races that he's been in. At the same time, he started 66 to 1, 100 to 1 for the Derby. So did we really expect to be placed in 2 Derbies? I guess knowing how hard a task that is, I don't think anyone really goes into a season expecting that, but we certainly had belief and confidence that we had the horse to be aiming at those kind of races, and thankfully he's delivered in them.
And the way he ran in those races, staying on, gives you hope for the Leger trip?
Yeah, for sure. I remember quite vividly being in the winner's enclosure at Chester after the Vars, sort of saying that, well, if there's one race that's tailor-made for him, it's the St Leger. So it's been not even at the back of our minds; it's been at the forefront of our minds, since then. To have been able to go via being placed in 2 Derbies, showed that he was more than capable at the highest level at 1.5 miles. But we were always confident that going up to 1.6 miles could bring about even more.
Sick and tired of the sight of Lambourn's backside?
Yes and no. Certainly yes, in the sense that he's beaten us 3 times. So there's no getting away from the fact that he's had the better of us up until now. But in a way, sort of through July, I was quite happy with the position that Lambourn was the favourite for the Leger and seemed to be what we had to aim for, because I could see enough reasons why we could reverse the form. In another 200 yards in the Curragh, we'd have been right on his tail. So we felt that going up in distance and probably on slightly softer ground, we could see reasons why we could reverse that form. Obviously, since then, a new leader of the pack from Ballydoyle has emerged, and that's more of an unknown. We don't have a line on Scandinavia and where we stand with him. So sick of the sight of Lambourn, but at the same time, if he was the only one of theirs that turned up, I'd be quite happy.
Thanks for showing us around here. We've just seen obviously a bit of the swimming area where Lazy Griff does a lot of his work. Just to give us an explanation of his exercise routine.
Yeah, he's probably a bit unique in terms of the amount of water therapy he does as part of his daily routine. So the pool that you saw, he goes in there first thing every morning, then also does an hour on the water walker before he goes out to ridden exercise, and then at the moment in the build up to next week, he's been swimming again on an evening. So he does a lot of water-based fitness work, which is good for his knee that he had a bit of an issue with at the back end of last year. And yeah, it's a routine that he's been in for all of this season. So we're certainly not going to go and change anything that's been working at the 11th hour.
And just going back to the opposition, obviously Christophe Soumillon knows Lazy Griff very well. I've been with him to victory over in France, and of course this season at Epsom. Now he's going to be in the other corner.
Yeah, although from what I hear, he's going to be in the other corner in Ireland rather than in Doncaster. But that may change between now and then. But obviously it was disappointing news to get. But at the same time, I could I could understand from his side the opportunities that were going to come with that role over the next 2 or 3 months while Ryan's out was something that he couldn't turn down. So it would have been great to have him, but at the same time, it's not a factor that I think will determine whether he wins or loses the Leger. So he's been ridden by 5 different jockeys already in his career, and touch wood, he's a very straightforward horse to ride. Not one that is that needs things overcomplicating. So albeit we haven't confirmed who it'll be yet, I'm quite happy there'll be an able deputy.
Your dad's had gone close a few times in the Betfred St Leger, notably second and third in 2019, DXB fourth in 2018. How would Lazy Griff compare to any of the previous contenders?
Sort of the ones in my time, I would say he's better than them going into the race. I think that's quite clear to see, really, from from just their form going into it. Well, Sir Ron Priestley had sort of come through the handicap ranks as a 3-year-old. Naif Road had won a Gordon. DXB had been second in the Derby, so he probably has the most similar profile. He didn't back it up as well as Lazy Griff in Ireland. He was only mid-div there. So I'd like to think he has a bit more class, really, than those horses that we've gone close with before.
And on a personal level, so your dad had 3 classics, both Guineas and an Irish St Leger. What would it mean to you to win this Betfred St Leger?
Yeah, it would be huge. I think it was certainly noticeable even after he finished second in the Derby. The amount of attention that got and messages of congratulations and what have you. We've had 105 winners so far this year, but it's those big races that really get you noticed as a stable and as a trainer. So to win a classic would be massive for us. And yeah, I get the Derby is obviously very special and sort of sits on a bit of a pedestal, but to win the Northern Classic would be very special. And it's a bit strange, as you say, Dad, he won both English Guineas and an Irish 1,000 Guineas, but yet we're sort of more synonymous with staying types. So to not have won the Leger was probably a bit of a one that Dad maybe felt he left behind. So to right that would be great.
And just a word on the owners. We're used to the powerhouses, your Godolphins, your Bydors, mopping up the classics. I mean, this is a great story for a syndicate like Midland Park and your working class, your normal everyday people being in the hunt for a classic.
For sure. In particular, the aftermath of Epsom was so special for all those involved. One of the things I actually took most pride out of Epsom was that the first 2 horses home in the Derby that came through a sale ring were both trained by us. Lazy Griff, obviously sourced by Jeremy Brummett and Midland Park in Baden-Baden, and Greenstorm that we'd bought ourselves in Goffs. And it just showed that you can buy a 2.5% share in a 75 grand yearling and be competing in the Derby with Coolmore, Juddmonte, the Aga Khan, the biggest of the big powers. So I think that was probably what made it all the more special, the involvement of so many people and what that meant to all of them. And as you say, it's shown people out there that it is accessible and it is achievable.
It's a great 4-day festival at Doncaster. Just a quick chat about the undercard. We've got the Betfred and Mayhill, a couple of contenders maybe going there.
Yeah, I think Amora Queen will definitely go there. She didn't surprise me that she won first time out at Doncaster. Maybe surprised us a little bit in the manner of that victory. She was very impressive, and so ever since then I've kind of been working back from the May Hill, scraped home at Chelmsford. The next day, you would probably maybe be a little bit disappointed in that in the context of a May Hill, but I think going back to turf, going back to a galloping track like Doncaster, we'll see her in a very different light. And she could be joined by Venetian Lace, who has been sort of banging her head against a brick wall in all the best 2-year-old races over 7 furlongs so far. She's been in the first 4 in the Chesham, the Superlative, and the Sweet Solera. I think she'll really benefit from going up to a mile. So yeah, she should have a very good chance if she turned up there.
I see Champion Island's entered in the sales race.
I don't think we'll see him back over that trip, to be honest. I think he's more likely to go up in distance rather than down in distance from the 7 he's been running recently. So if we were to see him at Donny, it might be in something like the Mile Nursery.
And I think it's not the stage, you've got to have a few for the Mallard, obviously. Novelista, how he came out of his recent run of Goodwood, Polestar, Sax Appeal.
Yeah, that'll be a little bit dictated by the ground over the next week. So Artisan Dancer and Align the Stars are both in the Old Borough Cup at Haydock on Saturday. If the ground goes soft there, they could probably wait for the Mallard. As you say, Novelista, that'll be an interesting one. I don't think the handicapper should get too carried away with his win yesterday, and we might work back from the Cesarewitch, but he'll certainly be in the mix for a Mallard.
Anything like Arasaig or Sweet Francais, could we see them?
Arasaig, I don't think we'll see in Doncaster. Sweet Francaise, again, it's a little bit dictated by this weekend. She's in the Superior Mile, and given she's a dual course and distance winner there, I would be quite keen for her to go there. But if the ground does get testing, then she could turn up in the Scepter instead. That would involve coming back to 7, which would be a bit of an unknown. But she's a filly on a steep upward curve, and yeah, it might be tilting at Windmills, but she's got an entry in the Sun Chariot, so we'd like to go somewhere between now and then, but it'll just be a little bit weather dependent.
And finally, just back to the main man, what's the plan between now and race day?
As I say, he'll work on Saturday morning, and that'll be his last sort of strenuous piece of work, and after that it'll be a case of just counting down the days and keeping the regime and the routine as it always has been, and yeah, just keeping fingers firmly crossed that as we've said for some time, we felt that if we can get him there in the form that he was in June, then he'll go very close, and don't think anything's happened in the interim to change that opinion.
Thanks very much, Charlie, and best of luck.
Thank you very much.